Hey up guys, welcome to Wrestling in the Dark, the one and only podcast by a blind wrestling fan. It's time right now for the NXT versus AEW Super Review. I'm going to take a look at each show, decide which one was better, so if you are interested in what they were like for someone who's 100% blind, chill out, have fun, and we'll take a look. Keith Lee kicks off NXT. It's a nice intense start. His hip-hop music entrance kicks in. Everyone's into it. They're serenading him all the way to the ring with Oh Bask in His Glory song and the Keith Lee Woot Woot one that I'm just not going to even do an impression of because I find it a little bit cringy but also pretty funny. Lee talks about the fact that Undisputed Era had a great 2019, probably the best, barring him. What did you do, Keith? I understand that he had a really good back end of the year with his performance in the, oh bloody hell, I was going to call it the Elimination Chamber, the War Games match. He had a really good performance in that, and he built a lot of momentum. But really, Undisputed Era got all the titles other than the women's title. Again, why have they not already added a woman to Undisputed Era? Because they really need to. They have all the gold. Why would you not want them to also have the women's championship? So that's something that keeps niggling at me. But yeah, they got all the titles. What did you do? You didn't get even one title, Keith. Can you tell who I'm a mark for? I like the Undisputed Era. Yeah, he talks about the fact that they did great, but they've peaked and reached their limit, unlike him, because he's limitless. Again, I like the limitless thing. I think that it really works as a character. As a catchphrase, I find it sort of annoying when it has to be in every promo. It's like, I'm the limitless one, I'm limitless, I'm pushing beyond boundaries because I have no limits. It's just like, yeah, I know, you're limitless, you're boundless potential, just, it's okay, you don't need to tell me that anymore. Well, he says that he's going to beat Roderick Strong next week, to which I said, ha! Because no way are you beating Roderick Strong, not even one-on-one, never mind with the Undisputed Era with their current mindset of let's maul everybody, which they do. They come out, Adam Cole's really pissed off, starts rattling off all of the victims that they've claimed, Imperium, the Velveteen Dream, and then they go after Keith Lee. They start mauling him. Roderick Strong attacks his leg. He's going after the ankle, trying to injure it so that he can't compete next week. And then Tommaso Ciampa comes out, runs down, helps Keith Lee, and they chase off Undisputed Era. Really, really nice opening to the show. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm a massive mark for Undisputed Era right now, so anyone that goes up against them, I'm like, ugh. It's going to be really hard to not root against Ciampa, although they are sort of playing it along the lines that I can get behind him. But in terms of everyone else, I'm like, leave Undisputed Era alone, they're my favourite. I just don't want... I really, really like Adam Cole. I like the other three, but Cole, I like the most. I think he had a really good year last year, really drew me in, was in at least probably 3 of like my top 5 matches of last year, especially with the ones that he was in with Gargano. I loved that 3 stages of hell match that he had with him, and I think they did a really good job of making himself look like a horrible, nasty man, but also a pretty good, solid fighting champion, and that's got me really behind them. So now I'm just like, go away, Keith, I don't want you. I'm completely on the opposite side of what I'm supposed to be. But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting and decent way to start off the show. We got a pair of great opening tag matches. On NXT, it was the Broserweights, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle versus the South Wales Subculture, Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews. And on AEW, it was kicking off Bash of the Beach. It was a 4-way tag title #1 contenders match with Proud and Powerful, The Elite, Kenny and Hangman, and Best Friends. And I actually really thought that they were both fantastic matches. There was a little bit missing for me for the NXT match, just because having Nigel McGuinness not be there just makes that team feel a little bit empty. And actually, you realise how much he does add to it, because sometimes he's so good at being in the background but also contributing that you don't realise how much he's doing until he's gone. I actually really missed having him be there as like the sort of cheeky voice of the heels, where you usually usually have him standing up for a team like Undisputed Era. You usually have them in talking about the fact that they're tough champions and they're trying to get rid of the competition and sort of justifying what they're doing. And I do think that was missing sorely in this match in terms of talking about the fact that Morgan and Andrews have been through hell basically at Takeover Blackpool with the ladder match and trying to recover from that. Morrow did mention it, but I don't think he quite sold the physical toll that Nigel McGuinness would have. There was some really cool stuff in this match. At the beginning, Pete Dunne got an X-Plex. Matt Riddle followed that up with a Broton. They were hitting kicks in stereo at some point. I really like that those two are just strikers. They're just going to wear you down, and they definitely settled into that role because Webster and Andrews were absolutely all over the place in this match. I thought that they were really impressive, and that's not something that you're going to hear me say very often because I don't like South Wales subculture. I find them sort of bland and vanilla and just too nice and smiley, and they just like, please like us, and I just find them like the Scrappy Doo of the NXT tag division. But Webster got a really cool move, a cool sequence at some point. He got a moonsault, then he followed that up with a shotgun dropkick to Pete Dunne, got a springboard dropkick to Matt Riddle, and then hit another tope. I think it was a really, really cool sequence. Andrews got a Northern Lights suplex followed by a double stomp at one point, which I thought was cool. He countered an X-Plex into the stunner. That was awesome. At one point, Webster hit a tope and Andrews got a tornado DDT. I just thought that they were all over the place, and I was fairly impressed with them, as much as I hate to admit it. The really cool finish, though, as well, as Riddle hits a gotch driver on Webster. Andrews goes for a shooting star press, knowing that he needs to end the match for his team, but he gets clobbered out of midair because Pete Dunne just uncorks a big right hand, and then Riddle gets a flash knee strike, and that picks up the Broserweights the win. They'll be off to face Imperium. I actually thought there was quite a lot of a story going on in the AEW one with with the Elite sort of accidentally working together quite a lot throughout the match. I really like that we've got this continuation of the Hangman Page storyline where he's desperately trying to extricate himself from the Elite, but he just gets placed in these matches with Kenny Omega, who he works pretty well with. For now, we'll see how it all breaks down. One of my favourite spots in this match, I really like when people do multiple suplexes. So one of the things that really has made me like Matt is him doing his locomotion Northern Lights thing, because I really like people when they deliver multiple suplexes. I think it makes them look really powerful, and I just always loved the visual of it when I could see before, and it's something that it's carried through to me, still liking it now. But he does the locomotion stuff. That was pretty cool. He continued until he got hit with a swinging net breaker. But there was another one with Santana doing the Three Amigos, and on the third one he does that stalling vertical suplex where he passes over the opponent to Ortiz while he's doing it, and I love that spot. It's so powerful. I just think that it works really well. I think that it would be a great visual, and I do wish that I could see it, but I think just knowing that it's going on, the mental visual is cool enough, and I just thought that was really cool. We got a spot where they were all trying to suplex each other, sort of faces versus heels, and then Orange Cassidy came in and was the difference maker. Kenny kept sort of accidentally working with the Bucks. There was just loads of stuff going on. Santana and Ortiz kept just running in and blindsiding people and breaking up covers. At one point, Santana got a cannonball senton whilst Ortiz hit a tope con hero, and I thought that was really awesome. And then we got the eventual end where the Bucks sort of do the heavy lifting. They start getting up on top, and then Page and Omega hit the Buckshot Lariat V-Trigger combo for the win. And I actually thought that it was really, really good from the commentary. I thought they did a fantastic job. There was actually one sequence that Excalibur called really well that I feel like I'd have missed out on big time if he hadn't. So I really appreciate that. But it wasn't something that particularly carried on throughout the show. So this was sort of the highlight of the show for me. I don't think that that's a hot take, though. I think most people would be like, yeah, that was the best match of the night. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the main event. I had technological issues and just hadn't had a chance to watch Darby versus Pac, so this was definitely match of the night. Which one do I like more? It's difficult to answer because I'm a big fan of Matt Riddle. I really like Pete Dunne. I don't necessarily like South Wales Subculture, but it was a frigging great match. I thought that it worked really, really well, and was just sort of all over the place. It's sort of ended expectedly, though. I think we all knew that Riddle and Dunn were going to come out on top with this one, but I'm really, really looking forward to seeing them face Imperium. I think I'd have to give the edge to the AEW match, though, just because it has some really awesome spots. It was fast paced. It was a really intense way to start off the show, but it also drives quite a lot of story. You've got the best friends in there, just plugging away, doing good as they always do, having Orange Cassidy in there. You've got Proud and Powerful sort of coming back and reinserting themselves into the memories of everyone, just running wild and being nasty bastards, poking people in the eye and all that sort of stuff, which I really liked. I really liked the Elite just can't help working together little dynamic. That was great. And then it pushes forward this Omega Hangman storyline where they keep getting forced to work together. Now they're going to be going for the tag titles, but we've got Paige with the sort of I like alcohol a little bit too much storyline, which I'm actually really interested to see what people think of that. You should let me know in the comments, because I don't mind it. I know a lot of people think that they could go overboard with it, but I actually think that someone who's dealing with something like being recruited by the Dark Order, someone that's drifting apart from their friends, that's been on a losing streak, that hasn't found themselves or has lost themselves, I think could easily turn to alcohol, go from these are happy beers to this is ruining my life. And it's a TV 14 thing, and I like wrestling as a TV show. It's not just the sport that I like about it. I like the storylines, and I think that they could get some real emotional weight out of this Hangman thing, depending where they go with it. Obviously, it could go over the top. It could end up being ridiculous or cringy, but I think that it could end up being a really interesting one. So I think for round one, I'd have to give it to the AEW match. We get a pair of promo segments next, and one is definitely better than the other one. Ciampa comes out and he talks about the fact that, again, he rattles off Undisputed's victim list: Keith Lee, Velveteen Dream, Imperium, and he talks about the fact that they've clearly got a hit list, but it's okay because so does Ciampa. Guess what, Cole? You're on Ciampa's hit list, and that was sort of the gist of that. He talked about stuff that he has already said, really, in the those pre-taped segments that we got last week, which were far more intense and way more interesting. He talks about the fact that it's no more waiting, no more distractions. He wants his life back. Adam Cole took his life when he took Goldie, and he's coming to get it back. Undisputed Era jump him, and then they're attacking him, and eventually Johnny Gargano comes out and makes the save, and we get DIY, and the crowd is really, really intense and chanting DIY, and it's a real feel-good moment that we've had at least 5 times. DIY are going to definitely be the Shield of NXT, where it's like they've gone apart and they come back, and they've gone apart and they come back, and it's sort of hard for me to accept that these two just are fine now. And, like, we never really got a full maybe Ciampa coming and sort of apologising for everything that he did, or I don't know. I never felt like there was a true end to their little storyline because of Ciampa getting injured, and it's so disappointing because they were weeks away from closing it off. And I do think that because we've had this little DIY and now back together and they're okay, and we've had it a few times, it sort of lost. I wasn't like, oh Johnny, but I do think it was a good segment. However, on the other side of things, you've got Cody coming out, and as much as I do not like the large hound of AEW, it was a really decent promo, and I really can't deny that. He acknowledges that he's failed as a mentor to MJF. And he talks about all of the stipulations. He says that he finds it surprising that MJF had put Cody and Wardlow in a cage match, because surely after a match like that, the crowd will see that MJF should be carrying Wardlow's bags and not the other way around. Cody says he's been in a few stables, a few tag teams. He knows what it's like when someone's trying to steal your flame, dampen your pop, and I thought that was really cool. He says that MJF's making the mistake with the whipping stipulation, thinking that if Cody's skin breaks, if he feels physical pain, that it'll be the worst thing that can happen in the rivalry. But he lives rent-free inside of MJF's head, his thumb pressing down on his brain, and says that he accepts all of the stipulations. And I just thought that it was actually a really good promo. One of the things that I do enjoy about Cody is his promo skills. He's a bit wordy. He comes out and he always says like, oh, I came out here with the pomp and circumstance of wrestling, and we do have to put up with like the 5 minutes of the angelic chorus before he comes out. But he always delivers a pretty good promo, and considering that he was head to head here with Tommaso Ciampa, I don't really think that that he did a bad job, because I really liked Ciampa on the mic. I just didn't feel like that promo was anywhere near as intense as those pre-taped ones where they got like all the effects and stuff going on in the video package. I almost wish that he hadn't repeated himself, because that video package last week was absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, Cody coming out full of piss and vinegar, realising that he has failed MJF as a mentor, but is ready to accept all these stipulations and go and whip MJF's ass eventually down the line, I actually think was really intense and entertaining. So I'm not particularly sure why that cut me off there, but I was going to say that I would give AEW the point there over Ciampa. I did also really like the fact that Cody said, he brought up the less is more argument that people have had with MJF, where he said that old timers are saying that MJF is an old school heel with less is more, but he just says that MJF isn't capable of any more. Just makes him sound pathetic, and I thought that it worked really well. So like I said, yeah, AEW gets the point now, which means they are 2-0 up. We get a fairly short Joey Janela promo where he talks about the fact that Penelope Ford kicked him in the dick, says that he's told her time and time again that he wants nothing to do with her, but he knows and she knows and everyone else knows that the only way for her to make a name for herself and to get herself over is off the back of Janela. He says that 2019 was a dick kick of a year, metaphorically, that his record wasn't where he wanted it to be, where it should be, but he feels like he is one of the guys that's the backbone of AEW. Something needs to change, so next week he's going to show Ray Phoenix why they call Double J a bad boy. I actually really like Joe Janela promos. There's just something about him. There's this bubbling craziness just right under the surface where he's just sort of jokery, sort of Mick Foley-esque. I feel like if we had a really good storyline with Janela and something heartbreaking happened, I think we could easily get a Kane Dewey-esque promo from him. There's something that just really draws me in about him, that he seems cool, but like he's just got this like bubbling crazy side underneath him that if it ever comes out, I don't know whether they're going to be able to put it back in the box, and I just think that is a really cool dynamic. Then we get through to what is my least favourite part of both of the shows. Look, it's hard for me to talk about matches like these two and say that they were crap and that I didn't enjoy them, because I know that people will have enjoyed them, especially the Dusty match, the Dusty Classic match, because the commentary did an absolutely terrible job for both of these matches. Morrow was not doing a good job here, and Excalibur just went into cruise control mode, which is something that Excalibur does quite a lot. It's like, here, have this lovely steak, and you chow down on it during the opening match, and it's a lovely steak that just tastes really good, and then he comes along and after that match it's like, oh, I can't be bothered to make steak anymore, here, have this corned beef, and I'm like, but I hate corned beef, and Excalibur's like, but you will have it every week. And it really, really frustrates me. So, the two matches, we got the Time Splitters, Kushida and Alex Shelley versus the Grizzled Young Veterans. And then we also had on AEW, Brandy and Mel versus Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. Like I said, I've not got loads to say about these just because the commentary did a very, very poor job. I like that Shida and Chris Statlander worked quite well together in those early moments, and throughout the match, actually, they worked pretty well. I think in the early moments, Mel showed off her strength, and Shida hit Hurricane Rana, sending Mel to the outside. Statlander hit some sort of moonsault, and then Shida hit a running knee. Again, later on, Shida got an avalanche suplex, and Chris Statlander got a shooting star press, I think, from that. But I'm not particularly sure without going and checking my notes. There was very few of them, though. Just a lot of it was just, oh, Mel showing off her aggressive side and this, that, and the other, and I really didn't enjoy it. I don't think the crowd did either. I'm pretty sure I heard a CM Punk chant, which is very disappointing. They have failed the women's division in AEW, and it's absolutely ridiculous because their main competitor is NXT, who has a fantastic women's division. Then going through tomorrow, don't get me wrong, AEW fans, I'm not just gonna shit all over Excalibur. Morrow did an absolutely awful job for this match with extraordinary tandem offense and a double team maneuver there and all this sort of stuff that was just so annoying. However, the one thing that I didn't expect in this was Gibson and Drake coming out victorious. So they hit the ticket to Mayhem at the end, and I was like, what? Because I'm sitting there really bored. Like, it sort of seemed like it was going to be interesting to start with. Time Splitters get a drop toe hold basement drop kick combo. Kushida, he's running wild at one point. He hits his springboard clothesline and a handspring back elbow and going for submissions, etc, etc. Alex Shelley sort of running wild for a while, hitting chops, etc, etc. And I thought it was going to end up being good, but it just devolved into nice tandem maneuver there, and I was like, oh, Morrow, why are you doing this to me? But yeah, they hit the ticket to Mayhem at the end, and this was probably one of my favourite parts of the show, just because afterwards, Time Splitters offer the handshake, and Zach Gibson gets on the mic. He's like, nah, we didn't come all this way to shake hands in front of the hipster crowd, pretending to know who you are. He says that they've dominated Europe and that they're not going to stop. They're the grizzled young veterans, and they're soon to be recognised as Dusty Cup 2020 winners. I just always love when Gibson cuts a promo and I get to watch it. It's always so much fun. I always think this is going to be great for the podcast, and it just always amuses me. This match, though, I really wish the NXT crowd would stop trying to do the shoes off thing for Gibson. I understand that it's really fun, but I just don't think it's in the American DNA. Oh my god, because they're just doing the song completely wrong. They're like, if you hate Gibson, shoes off. If you hate Gibson, shoes off. It's completely wrong. I just don't know why. It's not programmed into the American DNA to be able to just sing in chorus a song that they've never heard before, but it is with the English one, and it's a completely different melody. It's the shoes off, if you hate Gibson, shoes off, that one. And they're just, the NXT crowd just doing it completely wrong, but I was taken completely by surprise with the grizzled young veterans coming out on top with this one, and I can't wait to see them versus Undisputed Era. Man, Gibson on the mic opposite Adam Cole could actually be a really cool little promo battle type thing. So just because Grizzled Young Veterans went over here and I completely wasn't expecting it, I thought that this was a lock to be the Time Splitters winning. I really thought that it was going to be, so I think that I'd give the edge to that match here, which means that it's 2-1 to AEW. We get another pair of promo segments. The first one is Finn Balor, and this one isn't a particularly long one. He talks about Elijah Dragunov and talks about, he says that he reminds you quite a lot of himself. He seems fearless and just basically says, yeah, he reminds of himself. He says, a message from the Prince: if you're going to come for Finn, you better not miss, and says that he's going to go over at Worlds Collide. On the other side, we've got the Dark Order. Now this one is a little funny one. I'm not really sure what I think about this, because it's a really good segment in terms of showing you what they're aiming to do. Should we have seen it? I really don't know, because it just gives the game away. It's not like the AEW wrestlers aren't watching what's going on here. They will see this, and they talk about the fact that they've been trying to recruit certain people, that they've had star acquisitions that they really want to get. They've been aiming for Nakazawa, they've been trying to get Cutler, they've been trying to get Hangman Page and draw a wedge between him and the Elite, because they want to prove that the Elite were never more powerful than the Dark Order is. And I think that that's really cool, because it really lays out what their plan is. It tells us who they're after, why they're after them, and I think that that's really cool. But at the same time, it's just one of those things that I don't feel like we, as the viewers, should have seen in a logical kayfabe world. How do they now not expect Omega to have seen this and actively try to not get recruited? How they expected Hangman not to see this, for Nakazawa not to see this. And I feel like if Kenny saw this, there's no tension, there's no surprise. They can't just spring an attack on him. They can't subtly try to get in his head anymore, because he knows that they're after him. So I don't think that I liked it, even though I enjoyed the actual video package, and I totally still think that Matt Hardy is going to be the higher power. I swear that first week when they started talking about the Exultant one, I am absolutely 100% sure that one of them went, wonderful, which I don't think I've heard anyone else talk about. And even though other people have said Matt Hardy, I swear that no one else has mentioned the wonderful thing. And I'm like, did I imagine that? But I totally think that he is going to be the higher power. The effect on the video package, the way that it's like this sort of digitally effect, that I definitely think Matt Hardy's set to be the leader here. In terms of the next actual matches, we get Sammy Guevara versus Jon Moxley, which should have been one of my favourite matches of the night, and I ended up absolutely hating. And on the other side, it was a triple threat between Tyler Breeze, Leah Rush, and Swerve Strickland, with Angel Garza on commentary. I really do think that this should have been a better match, actually, or that the commentary should have done a better job. It was back and forth. One guy would do something, the other guy come and break up the cover and do something, and then one of the others would break it up and do this and that. And Rush and Swerve teamed up on Tyler Breeze at first, and then started fighting each other. And there was all sorts of actually interesting things. Did the commentary do a good job? No, they didn't. there was no detail. It was just sort of this, that, a big kick, etc., etc. And it's so basic that it's really hard to invest in the match. I do like that Leo was hitting just moves everywhere. I was actually quite surprised that he didn't win this match, because mid-match I was like, oh, this is totally Leo's match. He's like going round hitting the final hour on Breeze and then hitting the come up on Swerve, and Breeze will break up the cover there, and etc, etc. Breeze, I was really excited to see him in a cruiserweight match, because I was like, okay, if you're going to now be under the cruiserweight banner, then that could actually be really good for Tyler Breeze, because if they give him a decent performance, that could be great. Do I want him in a tag? Do I want him in a tag team with Fandango? No. Do I enjoy Fandango's performance? Do I enjoy him as a character? Yes. Do I enjoy the Fashion Police together? Yes. I don't want them as a team anymore, because Tyler just gets used as the guy who gets all the heat, and then Fandango gets the hot tag and runs in, and it's like, no, I don't want Tyler to be some sort of jobber. So I was excited to see him in this match. He was going around hitting his supermodel kick, etc, etc, and I realised how perfect he would have been to face Angel Garza, considering that they just both tried to showboat each other. Angel Garza was actually on commentary, again, sorely missing Nigel McGuinness, in my opinion, to sort of suck up to him a little bit. He was speaking his native tongue. Mauro kept talking about how he couldn't understand him. They were joking about it with Beth. And I really think that it was just missing Nigel there to be like, oh, I understand what he says, but you don't deserve to know because you are Morrow and I hate you, or just whatever. I don't know. Nigel has got this cheeky attitude that he works into when he backs up the heels, where it doesn't make him look like a dick. He just looks like he's trying to sort of show both sides. And yeah, I really feel like if he'd have been on commentary, he'd have been like, oh yeah, I can understand exactly what he's saying, but I'm not going to tell you because you don't deserve to know. Yeah, and I was just a little bit disappointed. Again, same thing with the Sammy Mox match. There was a couple of little bits where I thought that it might end up being good, or that the commentary might do a good job. Sammy did like a backflip at one point and followed it up with a shooting star press. But there was just a lot of a big knee strike or building momentum here, and just calls like Mox sent face first into the ring post, etc, etc, and it was just really basic. And considering that Mox is one of my favourite characters on AEW, Guevara is one of my favourite characters, I just found it really, really disappointing. The post-match angle was great though, with the Undisputed Era, with that would have been a great moment to be paired. And Mox is like, what the hell? I swear I escaped from these people. Cole just running down, attack it. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. The Inner Circle come down, they attack Mox. Jericho starts whipping in with the title and eventually gets some sort of spike out, and then jabs Mox in the eye with it. Absolutely, ultimately turning heel on me, because then he starts making eye jokes like, keep an eye out, Mox. Oh wait, you haven't got any left, and etc. And I was like, oh, I'm so mad at you right now, Jericho. It's just one of those things where I don't think that I've ever actually had a character make any kind of eye jokes about eyesight, etc, etc. And it's just like, as much as I'm a mark for Jericho, just from a character standpoint, I was like, this is like the ultimate heel thing. He's making jokes about losing eyesight. What a dick. But it's really hard to decide where I'd give the point here. I'd probably give NXT the edge if I had to give one of them, just because because I really don't know. Mainly because I really like Guevara and Mox, and I just really wish that they weren't giving me corned beef commentary when they were giving me steak commentary earlier on in the night. With that opening match, it was, like I say, it was the lovely, well done steak that you come and you're like, that's perfectly cooked, and then you get this Mox and Guevara match and they just give you horrible shitty corned beef. Who likes corned beef? Not me. Not for commentary anyway. But Mora didn't do much better when it came to the triple threat, but I also don't care quite as much about Leo and Swerve. I forgot his name again. I apparently really don't like Swerve Strickland because I can't even remember his stupid non-name. Yeah, so it sort of equals up the score. It's like 2-2 now. I couldn't really be more on opposite sides with these two matches. So you've got MJF with the Butcher and the Blade versus DDP, Dustin, and I am failing QT Marshall. I was gonna completely blank on him then. And on the other side, the main event of NXT was the Women's Battle Royal. I actually think that the Women's Battle Royal was really entertaining. Morrow did a pretty good job. There was lots of cool little bits. Casey Catanzaro returned. Mercedes Martinez was in there. Tegan Knox was in. Shayna Baszler was back. And I just thought that this was all really good stuff. Bianca Belair got the showcase of the match, especially considering that she ended up winning. But she was all over the place. She eliminated at least 3 or 4 people and had quite a few cool little spots. Mercedes Martinez eliminated a few people. She was going toe-to-toe with Shayna Baszler at one point. Even managed to sit in the Kirifuda clutch for a little minute, but she did eventually get eliminated by Baszler. I thought that was really cool, though. Just the fact that she got the chance to do the eliminations, the chance to go toe-to-toe with the woman that was the champ, I think that instantly increases her star power. Mia Yim was running around doing an elimination. She got a protect your neck at one point, Io Shirai, and it ended up coming down to being Bianca Belair, Tegan Knox, Io Shirai, and Shayna Baszler left in the ring. And I actually thought that it was a really good little bit. Once Shayna got eliminated, that was pretty cool. Tegan actually ended up getting eliminated by Dakota Kai because she came in with a knee brace and started attacking her. I actually think that this is going to be a really, really good rivalry. I can't wait to see where they go with it. Again, it might be an unfair thing to say, but I really hope that they can get a Gargano-Ciampa level feud out of this, because at the end of the day, Tegan wants to get her payback, but she was also focused on just, moving forward and wasn't really interested in vengeance or getting dragged in. And I actually think that it's really cool that Dakota come out and was like, I'm not going to let you have this opportunity. I'm going to screw you over further. I'm going to attack you with this knee brace. And I just think that worked really well. And then the closing moments, once it got down to just being Io Shirai and Bianca Belair, was really, really cool. It was back and forth. You never knew who was going to do what. Io Shirai hitting a 619 and Bianca Belair got a fall-away slam, and they were fighting on the apron, and Io was trying to get a German suplex on Bianca to get her off, and I just thought it was all really cool. Eventually Bianca just launched Io Shirai over the top rope, and she picked up the win, and I thought that was a really, really decent, enjoyable battle royal, because I could easily have been lost when it comes to this match, because there's so many women, there's so much going on, but I felt like Morrow actually did a pretty good job, and I'm glad of that, because even if he didn't do a fantastic job during the Time Splitters match, during the Cruiserweight match, at least he kept me up to date with what was going on with this one, because this was the main event. There was so much at stake in terms of being a number one contender, and it was just important to the women's storyline, which is one of the things that I am the most interested in NXT. I love the NXT women's division. And so I'm just really glad that they did a good job with that. On the other side, though, God, man, MJF's match, I hated it, guys. I really, really did. It did me in enough that when technological issues plagued me and ended up not letting me watch the main event, I really wasn't that bothered, because it was just all downhill from the Cody segment onwards. It was just corned beef all the way, and I just absolutely hated it. And this was a really boring match. Leading into the commercial break, hardly anything happened. There was commentary botches. Excalibur wasn't sort of saying what was going on. At one point, Dustin got a destroyer, and Excalibur didn't even call it. And Tony had to say that it happened, and that's not acceptable. JR's there calling MJF Michael Jacob Freeman, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, Excalibur's not doing his job. JR doesn't even know who's in the goddamn ring. Tony is, like, sort of desperately trying to actually do his job and actually inform people of what was going on. And it's just this boring match, man. If there's been any bigger failure on this show, I do not know, than the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny. They look like absolute jobbers. They are in MJF's little faction. They're backing up a little weasel, and then they just keep on. They just keep on losing, and I guess they didn't lose in this match. MJF managed to roll up QT Marshall, but it just. Oh man, it was just so boring and frustrating, and the crowd was quiet. Commentary couldn't be bothered, and I just absolutely hated it. I've not got that emotional connection to DDP. I wasn't a fan back in the day. I only started watching in 2012, and oh man, my pad's shouting at me, sorry about that. Yeah, I only started watching in 2012, and I just don't have that emotional connection to DDP. I enjoyed Dustin running around, going wild, hitting clotheslines and atomic drops and cannonballs and destroyers, etc., but I wasn't into the rest of the match at all. So I'd definitely give the edge to NXT here, which actually means that it ends up being a 3-2 loss there for AEW. I really wasn't expecting it to work out like that. I just don't know, man. When it comes to the MJF stuff, I'm really interested in his actual storyline with Cody, but when he actually gets in the ring, I'm just not. I don't really care, and neither do commentary, and that's a problem. Yeah, I was really frustrated with this episode of AEW in general. I just think that it was so good in that opening match. And then the Cody promo was great, and I was like, yes. And then that women's match comes along, and it just all falls off a cliff. Commentary can't be bothered. The crowd doesn't care. There's not any particularly really cool spots or anything like that. And I was just so disappointed, and it just actually got me to the point, like I said, where I didn't care when I couldn't watch the main event, and it's Darby Allin versus Pac. That was probably an awesome match, but when my friends are all saying it's going to be subpar commentary, you're not going to enjoy it, don't even bother, it's like, why would I? And I just hope that they do better next week. I think that they're going to do far worse, because if at the end of the day they're wrestling on a boat, they're doing everything they're going to be doing on a boat. Excalibur is just, I can't see him doing a good job next week, but at least some of the storylines that I like got drove forward, mainly the Hangman Kenny Omega stuff and the Dark Order stuff, which I guess is sort of one of the same. On NXT, I really enjoyed, I enjoyed Keith Lee being sort of like a Hulk type guy when DIY are like offering the handshake to each other. We get a bit where Gargano gets asked about helping Ciampa, and they come along, and Ciampa's like, thank you, and Gargano says, did you see what Mustache Mountain said about us? Are we going to do this one time, like another time for old time's sake? And then all of a sudden Undisputed Era come out, and Keith Lee's there, and he's just after them all, and it just made him seem sort of like the Hulk, just like, oh, and he's just screaming at Roderick Strong that he's going to beat him next week. I enjoyed all of that. The Ciampa trying to take back his life stuff, really enjoyed Finn Balor, but I do think that they could have done better than they did, really. Not a strong week for either show, in my opinion. The tag team matches were really the star of the shows for me, because you had that opening 4-way tag title number one contenders, and you had them two you had those two Dusty Classic ones, and unfortunately the Gibson and Drake one wasn't that great, but I really do think that opening, those opening two matches, the Broserweights and South Wales Subculture, and that four-way was genuinely really, really great, and I'm glad that I saw them. As for the rest of it, I feel like I could have sort of taken or left it, but that's that. Well, if you've got any thoughts to say about NXT, Dynamite, or this episode of your WITD, you know where the comment section is, or you can tweet me at Mason_WITD. I hope you've had a good time, and if you don't want to miss another Wrestling in the Dark episode, make sure you hit subscribe and the notify bell, and if you've enjoyed yourself, hit that like button, make me feel good. I'm off, and you should have a good one.